Hi, my name's Capri, and I am going to be doing video responses for these questions and statements. So we'll just get right into it. So the first one says, name at least 3 items that could be considered AT and describe how those devices could support a student with a disability in the classroom. So I think the greatest thing about this is that AT devices and services, like, there's so many different things and they all don't have to be what we think about when we think technology, which is really cool. I mean, they could be something as simple as a pencil gripper or paper for that matter, and in that regards it's really cool because I think a lot of teachers um, don't know that, and it's really valuable to know that things just laying in your classroom could be super helpful. So 3 items that could be considered AT would be highlighting pens and tape. Super simple thing, but can be extremely helpful to a student with a disability to almost be able to take a bright color and highlight something that they're working with, because this can direct their attention and make it easier for them to pull things out of a cluster of words. And it might be just that small little highlight that could really help them. Another one would be adaptive feeding tools. I have been working in the severe needs classroom for a bit of time now, and feeding is a big part of the day, and all students have all these different needs when it comes to feeding. And so I think adaptive feeding tools are a great assistive technology device, because even the littlest bit of shape or size or difference can really help a student to be more comfortable when they eat. And it might be something that a student may not, for example, be able to vocalize. And so even having something where they're a little bit more comfortable is all the difference in the world. Something that I've used a lot, especially when I was a peer tutor in high school, were the digital recorders. And there was one child that I worked with, and he was so awesome, but he really, really enjoyed listening to himself, and he would memorize the way he would say certain things. So when he would be taking notes and he would record it on his digital recorder and he would go back to listen to it, he would mouth the way he would say certain things. And for that reason, when it came time for testing or noting progress, it was really great, because you would see that when he was thinking of the certain thing, he would remember how he said it in the digital recorder. And that was the greatest AT device, that, like, situation that I have seen. It was so amazing to see. The second question was, or the second thing was, explain 2 reasons why it is necessary to consider AT for students with disabilities. There are endless reasons as to why it's necessary to consider AT for students with disabilities. I think the most important ones for me would be eliminating academic struggle for these students, whether it be on a large scale, like such as a student needing a wheelchair, or maybe it be something like a highlighter pen. Because if a student feels like that academic struggle is put at ease, that can be such a wonderful difference in their learning and progress for the student and the teacher together, and allowing the student to become more successful. The second thing would be success in regards to feeling motivated and supported. When a student has this device and it's working and they are feeling supported, it's a really wonderful and great way to watch your student grow and watch your student learn and feel self determined to do things, because they feel like there's no barrier anymore. So, those would probably be the 2 reasons why I think it's necessary to consider AT for students with disabilities, even though there are so many reasons. Why is it important to consider both AT devices and services? So, the difference between devices and services. So, service is what directly assists a child with a disability, um, and their device. So basically, like, such as evaluating a student with like with their device and actually making sure everything's fitting right and deciding what's needed, um, for the student, providing training, basically the services. So basically the device, I like to think of it, is like a car, just a car, and the services are like somebody to teach you how to drive a car, somebody to help you take care of your car washes, everything that goes in. So yes, devices are great, but they're nothing in this world of AT if there's no services. um, just like having a car, that's amazing, but if you don't have all of the work that goes into it and all of the attention that goes into it, it's almost pointless. Um, and then let's see. So it's very important to consider both of them. Describe three responsibilities of the implementation team. Um, so three responsibilities of the implementation team are someone to have just as a contact person for coordinating efforts. Problems happen all the time, and having a specific somebody to be able to buffer and realize what they're doing and just having somebody to basically direct is really really important and provides this sense of like like connector or connection, um, which is really really great. um, Also, I think matching a student with the appropriate AT and training has to be one of the most important things, because a student has to feel fully like six for them to feel fully successful, they need to be paired with an AT that works for them. And so making sure that that's actually what is happening and not just what somebody thinks is going to work well for the student, but making sure that, you know, there's check marks, is really important. And lastly, considering the environment and tasks, that is really important for the implementation team, just because understanding what types of devices work in certain environments, what kind of environments the student works well in, super important. So those would probably be three responsibilities that come to my mind. Um, when we talk about three outcomes, of the implementation team, can determine by evaluating a student's assistive technology, would be evaluating a student, how they feel, most importantly, how the student feels this is helping them, um, and if they feel like they're being successful. Uh, and then I would say seeing if they will be able to know if AT is engaging and helpful for the student, if this device, or if it's really working, basically, if it's intended for what it's supposed to, and if not, finding a replacement for that, finding a different device that will work for them. Um, and then the last thing says, or the last two things says, imagine you're a seventh grade teacher, a seventh grade general education language arts teacher, and a student in your class has an upcoming IEP meeting. What types of information should you gather ahead of time to contribute to the discussion of the student's AT needs? So regardless if your student has an IEP or not, you should be very well aware of your student's strengths and weaknesses, most importantly. Um, you definitely need to know, um, kind of like, let's see, how do I word this? Number 6 talks about if you're a general education teacher and you're about to go to a meeting, what types of information should you gather ahead of times? They name 4 things. So for me, it's strengths and weaknesses of my student, um, knowing what environment my student works best in. Environment and AT devices, are really important to pay attention to. Environment for AT devices and then also what needs improvement with my student. Where are they at academically? What are they doing that's amazing, and what are they struggling in? Knowing that can really help with the choice of an AT device, and definitely a good sense of why my student has an IEP and what their IEP consists of is going to be very helpful. Um, the last statement says, during the meeting suggested in the example above, the IEP team recommends AT for the student. As a general education teacher, describe your role in the AT implementation and evaluation process. So, as a general education teacher, just having a student with AT in your classroom is means almost like nothing. Like that, the role goes so far beyond just having a student with AT. Um, you need to know first and foremost students' strengths and weaknesses, and I think a really big role would be um, need like being aware of that what the student is in need of currently and what you can do to help them be most successful in regards to the AT device, putting them in a certain spot in the room, surrounding them with a certain environment. Um, Knowing the device is super important. If you're familiar with the device,